People will forgive you for being wrong, but they will never forgive you for being right, especially if events prove you right while proving them wrong. The words of Thomas Sowell. What quote better epitomizes modern day grazer consciousness guided by the propaganda machine of the left than this quote? They will forgive you for being wrong, but they will never forgive you for being right, especially if events prove you right while proving them wrong. And they have been wrong about damned near everything, at least in the last 6 years, and I would say dating back to 2016 at the very least. All the while telling us that we are the ones who are brainwashed. We are the ones in the cult. We are the ones being led astray by misinformation. And yet, the conspiracy theorists, the tinfoil hat crowd, keep getting it right. And the mainstream propaganda machine and the grazers keep getting it wrong. They were wrong about everything, literally line item everything when it came to the COVID pandemic. They were retroactively wrong with their revisionist history when they throw stuff at us like nobody ever said you wouldn't get COVID if you were vaccinated. And these are just the top six in retort to that. They were wrong about our former president being sharp as a tack. And now they're having to come out and admit it. They're also having to come out and admit that their internal polling itself showed that Kamala Harris never had a chance of winning the election. They were wrong about the border, saying that the chaos at our southern border couldn't be solved without anything but more legislation and more bipartisan compromise. And yet, in barely 100 days, we've seen that problem pretty much solved. They were wrong about Jeffrey Epstein and the extent of his reach. This got brought to the forefront again this week with the so-called suicide of a young lady by the name of Virginia Giuffre. Virginia Giuffre pictured here with Ghislaine Maxwell, the acquisition officer for the aforementioned Mr. Epstein and Prince Andrew. She committed suicide, we are told. Another one that they're eventually going to be proven wrong on. We can look back at our own tweets. I'm making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and my general practitioner. If something happens to me, in the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me to protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted. She was involved recently in a bus accident, getting back to redundancy kill chains, which we'll go over later on in the program. But when they get it wrong and the conspiracy theorists, the tinfoil hat crowd get it right, it brings together how connected all of this is. And one of the connection hubs right now is the judiciary branch of our own government. This is Judge Lewis Kaplan. He was the judge that presided over the case of Virginia Giuffre versus Prince Andrew. He was the guy that presided over the case. He was the judge who allowed it to go forward, but put pressure on both sides to settle out of court so that a public judgment wouldn't have to be rendered. And eventually it was settled. Prince Andrew was never found criminally guilty of anything where he would have liability in the Giuffre case. But here's an interesting connection. Judge Lewis Kaplan was also the judge that presided over the act of judiciary gymnastics that made it possible for this batshit crazy woman to level a civil case and criminal charges against Donald Trump. Now, We can hashtag believe all women all we want, but when you get into the details of this case, this was nothing less than a naked act of judicial lawfare against our former president. Speaking of charges against our former president, this is Judge Juan Merchan, the guy that presided over the case that we'll never hear the end of, the 34-time convicted felon case. Another act of judicial gymnastics, another act of judicial lawfare against the former president. But even though these cases are supposedly assigned at random, Merchan was randomly assigned case after case after case regarding Donald Trump and his associates, Donald Trump's business interests, Donald Trump's lawyers, Donald Trump's fiduciary interest. Any number of things got randomly assigned to this same judge. In the same manner, random assignment of cases, this man, James Boasberg, kept getting cases dropped in his lap. What an outstanding coincidence that this is the same judge who ordered that the flights taking known criminals, including rapists and murderers, out of the country, ordered that the flights be turned around. And somehow, miraculously, and again, completely random, the Signalgate case involving Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth got dropped in his lap. Again, completely random. Do you remember this guy, this scumbag, this provocateur in the January 6th case? This is Ray Epps. He was finally brought up on criminal charges. Immediately after J6, he was on the FBI's most wanted list, and then that got quickly and mysteriously taken down. Then they tried to say he wasn't involved at all. Then finally, when public pressure became too much, they brought him up on a misdemeanor charge, and he was sentenced to a year of probation. Completely random and coincidentally, the Ray Epps case was dropped in the lap of, you guessed it, James Boasberg. Completely random, we are told. Completely unconnected, we are told. But the evidence is overwhelming. This is anything but random. This is anything but coincidental. This is systematic. And no reasonable observer, and again, that excludes the Grazer mob, no reasonable observer could conclude otherwise. But it doesn't stop there with the judiciary. And more is coming out as they continue to engage in acts of obstruction against the policies that were overwhelmingly approved and voted on in the 2024 election by the American people. This is Judge Hannah Dugan. Now, we are told that her arrest is yet another piece of evidence that Trump is Hitler in waiting, that he's arresting judges that disagree with him. But that's not why she was arrested. She engaged in a physical act of obstruction. Duly authorized ICE agents showed up at her courtroom to arrest a man who was charged in violent felonies, including domestics, multiple domestics. She physically interfered with the authorized officers from ICE and led the suspect out the back door to facilitate his escape. What were we told by these people? No one is above the law? Strange thing that the very people who are authorized to interpret those laws and to a lesser degree enforce them, and what should be the will of the people, are the very ones interfering with the prosecution of those cases. In the same week, Judge Joel Cano in New Mexico resigned under pressure and was arrested. Why? Because this judge, who the people entrusted the power to try cases, including immigration cases, had a Tren de Aragua member living in his guest house. When they examined the phone of this person living again in the guest house of a judge, they found pictures of decapitated cartel victims. These are the people that we have entrusted with the sacred duty of the law. You have the Border Patrol, boots on the ground, doing their best to enforce not only federal law, but the will of the people, doing their best to enforce the policies that have been handed down to deport the absurd number of illegal aliens that were let into the country intentionally and systematically under the Biden administration and every other administration, let's be honest, except for this one. That will of the people. 66% of Americans support deporting immigrants who are in the country illegally. And that breaks down even further. That's 86% of Republicans. That much is predictable. And 58% of independents. A majority of independents support this policy as well. The only voting demographic who seems opposed to it, or let's say less than enthusiastic about it, only 25% of Democrats. And these judges, again, coincidentally and totally at random, happen to be Democratic appointees. This all plays into the narrative that the propaganda machine is in the process of selling us about Trump being the new Hitler. And if you can sell the public on Trump being the new Hitler, then all bets are off with regard to whatever it takes to stop him. They continue to push this narrative, and this narrative is working in the most frightening of ways. A poll that came out this week showed that majorities of people who identified themselves, self-identified, mind you, as politically left of center, overwhelmingly justified murders of people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump. You can look at the graph yourself, and you can look up the survey yourself. Out of all respondents, a terrifying percentage, almost a third, said that it was okay to murder Trump or Elon Musk, and in Trump's case, over a third of all respondents. But 48.6% of self-identifying leftists and liberals said that it was okay. 55.2% said that it was okay to murder Trump. And the percentage that say that, just harmless property damage, after all, they're insured, the grazer backpedal that we keep getting every time the left does what it does and resorts to violence and vandalism and petulant child behavior. The percentage of those, all respondents, nearly 40%, said that destroying Tesla dealerships was partially acceptable. But 57.6% of self-identifying liberals felt the same way. This doesn't just apply to violence against Tesla dealerships, vandalism against Tesla dealerships, or attempted murders, two of which took place during the campaign. And surprisingly, we've heard nothing about the suspects in either case. We'll deal with that more later on in the program. This is intent, people, and it's working. And with regard to the immigration issue, when you have people who clearly, systematically are looking to undermine voting demographics by flooding countries with immigrants, legal and illegal, the results are damn near inevitable, let alone predictable. Marine Le Pen, front runner, and we saw what happened to Marine Le Pen. She was clearly ahead in all the polls, and they tried to frame her up on a legal technicality and make it impossible for her to run. The French people protested, and they had to let her back in. She will eventually become the leader of the nation of France. But she made yet another observation that even the most casual observer would find self-evident. Immigration is an organized replacement of our population. This threatens our very survival. What are you saying, racist things? No, we're talking about culturally as well. This threatens our very survival. We don't have the means to integrate those who are already here. The result is endless cultural conflict. It's almost as if that endless cultural conflict was by design. It's almost as if that design sought to undermine the structural and cultural integrity of Western civilization itself. Now, some people think that I may be reaching with that. Robert Heinlein, with Hamlin's razor, never attribute to malice that which can adequately be explained by stupidity. Never underestimate the power of human stupidity. This much is true. But I would say that never underestimate the power of human stupidity also applies to people not being able to see what's right there in front of them, being too stupid to see the systematic efforts that are being made against them. Now, clearly, we do have an immense level of incompetence inside the federal government. That's another self evident little piece of information right there. But my retort would be the words of Ian Fleming: once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, three times is enemy action. When the numbers of those oopsies get into the tens of thousands, one can only come to the single, inescapable, inevitable, and undeniable conclusion that there are forces at work that we have entrusted with the enforcement of justice in this country who, by hook or by crook, whether overtly or covertly, seek to undermine the very cultural institutions with which they have been instructed. Upton Sinclair tells us it is foolish to be convinced without evidence, and that is true. But it is equally foolish to refuse to be convinced by real evidence. And the evidence, my friends, is more than overwhelming. It is irrefutable. Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. The deep state and its minions have shown us who they are. In fact, it doesn't get nearly enough coverage that they have told us point blank what they are up to, what their intentions are, and how they not only seek to implement those intentions, but to pull the wool over the public's eyes in the process of doing so. And they have been largely successful, owing to a propaganda machine the likes of which Joseph Goebbels could have only dreamed and would only have existed in Orwell's very worst nightmares. But it's not a dream, it's not an illusion, it's real, and it's at work right now. As I've stated before, the fight is already upon us. We continue to fight with one hand tied behind our back, sticking to our principles. If our principles are going to cost us the victory, of what good were the principles in the first place if what we seek to protect are those cultural institutions that gave us those very principles? Chin down, knuckles up. If they're willing to fight dirty, it's time for us to get in the mud with them. The right side of history is determined by who wins. I plan on being on that side, and so should you. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. That one was for the sake of you docs happy Antifa maggots out there. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to stretch open your unwilling maw and choke you with fistful after black latex glove clad fistful of truth cock until you have reached the breaking point and either have to drop out of the fight or give over and admit that you're wrong and get in on the winning side, baby. There's still plenty of time. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Happy to have you out. Been an interesting week, about to be a more interesting week for me. Coming up here, we'll give you details on that in just a second. Right now, where's the energy, people? Everybody in for the drum roll. Come on. Hard charging out of the starting gate as we always come rocking and rolling with our bumper music from the one and only Red Desert Dutch Stompin' Rock and Roll Band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. This week's a coin toss, but let's see how it rolls. Jump on in here for the roll call. See which one of the usual suspects are already on board. Winning the gold medal this week. Now that it's turned into a competition, what do you know? Brother Roman Glad you made it out, man. One of my oldest and dearest friends, man. He has been a supporter of me as a person and the program for a long, long time. God bless you, brother. Happy to have you on board. Pulling up for the silver medal, another OG Reverend Ranger and Prophet of Doom, Mr. Dennis Weimer. You made it, bro. It's cool. David taking the bronze. Good to have you on board, David. Showing up early. Good to see you, brother. And of course, Roman's lovely wife, Terry. Mwah. Always appreciate the support, Mama. Appreciate the posts you've been kicking down to my personal message box. A lot of good stuff there. Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure chopping it up. The divine Miss Emmy, the OG Sinner Sister herself. Fantastic to have you on board. The one and only Bill Wade, brother in arms, brother in Christ, my brother in every sense of the word. Happy to have you here, man. Good to see you, man. We need to have another talk very soon. Speaking of people who I'm long overdue for a conversation with, Brother Jude Howe, brother in arms, brother in Christ, and a brother of the hook out there in the deep south. I'm going to be passing right by you, brother, on the way to my next assignment. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, give you all the details, but I hope, what do we got? Gypsum Mines of Sweetwater, Texas, with a hankering for a bit of that hate speech. Happy to hear it, man. Right there in Sweetwater. I want to hear all about this gig, man. Sounds fantastic. Preacher George on board. Glad to see you, man. Brother, I got to tell you, it is so cool online to be surrounded by my brothers in Christ, people who are deep thinkers, like minds, and kindred spirits who are walking in the light of that truth, man. It is good for the soul. So happy to have you on board. And in line with that, Deacon Mark on the back porch with his lovely wife Ida with some adult sodas and some smokable consumables. Glad to have you here, brother, as always. The mighty, mighty Stone. Look at that, man. Glad to have you, brother. Hashtag live the three, baby. Still working with that webcam that you purchased for me way back in the day, back when I was still in Iowa. We were bumping things up a little bit. Brother Joel from the Midwest by the river. You live by the Ohio River, sir? I don't see any method at all, sir. Good to see you, Joel. Glad you made it out. Let's roll on down, see who else might be on board. And I do want to take a second since Stone is here and Emmy and some of the other folks that knew him. It's the anniversary of the death of Mr. Harold Best. May he rest in peace, man. The world has not been the same without you. You were one of a kind. David was another one. He was a brother to his brothers. Yes, indeed. I wouldn't have wanted to be on the other side, damn straight, man. We miss you, Harold. Rest in peace, brother. And we will all say a prayer that we get to see you again. And we will. We will, man. We will meet again. Jake on board. You're late, but you're here, brother. It's cool. I'm just happy you made it out, man. Happy you made it out. Hope you're holding up, man. Stay strong. Don't let the world get you down, man. I read the book. We win. Little sip of liquid enthusiasm. I'm starting to get a little bit of the dry mouth. Get the sponsor shout outs out of the way. Fade the bumper music on down. We'll jump on into the meat of this thing next. We got a lot of important stuff to discuss. It has been an eventful week. I'm going to go ahead and fade this on out. Let me do the sponsor shout outs real quick, man. We'll knock that out and then we can jump on into all of the happenings that are happening and get busy with that. So, and we'll cue up the outro music, get that on board. So that'll be ready. Again, it's just me and this little laptop, my little production screen here. But thanks, man. I'm glad you liked the intro. I was working on that for a bit, man. I didn't know if I was actually going to make it to the break time. There was a lot more stuff that I wanted to include, but I was like, nah, because we're going to be discussing this stuff in depth. So there was no need for me to belabor the point on the intro. So I got my bullet points all posted and we're ready to jump into it. Sponsor shout outs real quick, and because that was Roman, we're gonna kick that off with Roman, one of my oldest and dearest friends. He has been a supporter of me as a person and a supporter of the program from day one. We go all the way back to 1988. Talking about Roman over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Dude, fantastic guy. He's doing great watercolor work right now. Beautiful naked women, right? Beautiful watercolor work of beautiful naked women and testosterone-driven commentary over at opiumtales.com. That on Planet Bart, we refer to as the Planet Bart trifecta. So he's got books available on Amazon right now under Roman Riva, and that is going to be From Dork to Pimp Daddy has been pulled, but he's got his short fiction work out now, and of course he's got Roman Freely, which is out and available for you on Amazon, which is a collection of his watercolor work. You're definitely going to want to check that out. Also, shout outs to my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest, period. End of statement, done, full stop. Sit down, shut up, you're wrong. Fantastic barbecue, and anyone over here in the comments who has had some will testify to that fact. If you guys ever, all of you guys that I keep saying, well, and I know your retort is, Bart, we would love to come visit, but you're constantly on the road, and I get that. When I take one of these long hiatuses that I have coming up, hopefully you guys will make it up there to visit, but anybody who comes up to visit, we will put together a Nordic Smoke barbecue package for the occasion. It is fantastic, man. The only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest. You got Dusty over there, who is still the pit master. The Viking Longship, the big smoker trailer, is sailing the asphalt seas. They are setting up for catering gigs. They are doing public stuff. You got to check them out on all their social media platforms. Nordic Smoke Barbecue. Check them out on social media, and if you are in the region, find one of these places where they are setting up shop. Go out, have a taste of this barbecue, show up, and give me your feedback, because I'm telling you, man, this stuff is absolutely phenomenal. And also, Dusty, pretty funny guy, man. He does the little one-offs, to promote stuff, and he gets on and does his little character bits. Some of those are good. Some of those are pretty comical. I think you'll enjoy it. So anyway, check him out at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, and of course, his brother Casey, who has moved on to bigger and better things. He is a practicing attorney now. He has passed the bar in the state of Washington. I have him on retainer, and it's good to have somebody like that on your side. But he's got a book out on Amazon called Freaks of a Feather, published by Laytop Press out of Spokane, Washington. It is a combat memoir that started out as a suicide note. That should be all the intro that is required. I will go further to say that he is one of the most phenomenally talented writers that I've ever read, let alone have the privilege of knowing and embracing as a friend and a brother. He has gotten attention all the way up the chain of command to General Mad Dog Mattis. What? Yes, General Mattis, who is also a denizen of the Pacific Northwest. He read the book, and he invited Casey to come and have dinner with him. And they sat and chopped it up and told those soldierly tales over probably, no doubt, some barbecue, and just talked about old times and the wars and stuff that only people who have been there can understand. I don't have that level of understanding, sadly. I didn't serve. I've had the privilege of training with any number of those guys, but I will never be able to get my head around what combat is like. But Casey understands it, and if you want to take a walk in some of that shadowy world, you want to get a look at the darkness and take a look at that inner landscape, check out the book. It is Freaks of a Feather. It is available on Amazon. And across the board, man, take care of the people who are taking care of the program. Right now, I'm working. You know what I mean? So this is primarily a labor of love. But there are times where I am not working, where the supplemental income helps, and the supplemental income always helps with the people who are taking care of the program. They are good enough to make this program possible. So and the whole essence here is building that community, like minds, kindred spirits, brothers in arms, brothers in Christ, and looking out for each other and just taking care of business like family does. So take care of the people who are taking care of me, who are taking care of the program, and all this kind of stuff, man. Let's keep it all together right here in the family, and let's support each other and build that community. What do you say? All right, phenomenal. Let's jump into this, shall we? What an interesting week it has been on the news front. I want to jump in and address this really quick in the F around and find out department. With all the controversy that is going on, and this wasn't one of my bullet points, and I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on it, but it's just one of those things where the joke just kind of writes itself. Let's say you are an enterprising young illegal immigrant who has jumped the border of the United States and crept in under the radar and lived for the last however many years, I mean, 4 years at least, lived for 4 years under the Biden administration where you knew that there was never going to be any consequences for your actions, that now that you're here, there's not going to be any consequences for the immigration law, and you're living in a blue state or a blue city, a sanctuary city. So you know that whatever the hell you do, there's not going to be any consequences for that either. You can stab some American white guy, you can rape some American white girl, doesn't matter. The DA is probably gonna free you on a PR bond while you're waiting for trial, and you can jump back to your home country and jump right back across the border again anyway. This has been the circumstance and the mindset of these dogs walking upright for at least the last 4 years. Man, you're being kind of harsh. Yeah, I am, man, because I'm just calling it like it is. A lot of people are not able to accept that reality. They want to color it up. They want to sanitize it and make it safe for family consumption. If you've seen the end result of what these people are capable of, man. Um, anyway, so you're in this blue city and you decide that you're going to snatch a purse. It's a really nice, I don't know if it was Louis Vuitton, but one of those high end purses, and you see an American white woman eating dinner in a classy ass restaurant, and you have just slid in under the radar, and there's that purse just like bait. It's sitting there and it's waiting for you, and you're like, man, this is easy pickings, and you snatch the purse and you leave. And you're already a little shaky because you know that Trump is in office now, and you know that even in blue sanctuary cities and blue states, even with Soros district attorneys, you know that the political climate and the criminal enforcement climate has changed radically. Okay, so you're already a little gun shy, but again, it's a Louis Vuitton purse. It's right there. It's an American white lady. You're going to snatch this and throw caution to the wind, and then you find out that the woman whose purse you just snatched is Christy freaking Nome, the director of the Department of Homeland Security. Oh my goodness. I could not stop laughing. Um, Bro, you want to talk about? Yeah, Bill, you're right. That was kind of an insult to dogs. That was rude. Brian, hey man, there you are. I'm glad you made it out. I missed you in the initial roll call, man, but I'm glad you're here. You still need to message me, man. Message me your contact info, including your phone number, so I can at least text you from the road, or maybe we can have a conversation because I got a long drive this week. I'll give you some more details on that here in a minute. Uh, so you snatch the purse and you find out that it belongs to Christy Nome, director of the Department of Homeland Security. And brother, you with this guy, he's he's praying that all they do is deport him. But my goodness, man, you want to talk about just poorly thought out or just oopsies that you oopsed yourself into. Uh, bro, there are days where you feel like you're having some rotten luck. Every time you are having one of those days, I want you to think back and think to yourself that no matter what kind of bad luck run you're having, whether it's in your personal life or you're at the casino, no matter what run of bad luck you're having, you're not the illegal immigrant who snatched the purse of the director of Homeland Security. So all I can say for you is, brother, vaya con Dios. I hope that I truly hope that this gives you some pause to consider where you may have gone wrong in life, but you will be considering it from another country, pal, because the United States is no longer an option. So enjoy that, Jose, and your accomplice, Hose B, who you are waiting, who they're still waiting to arrest because there was an accomplice according to the security camera. Uh, Good luck, brother. Good luck. Um, Go with God. I hope that it gives you pause to reflect. But yes, If if judges aren't willing to support the law, and we're about to do a deep dive on that, if judges are not going to enforce immigration law and district attorneys are not going to prosecute based on um, based on immigration law or enforcing those laws, then eventually God's going to handle it. Okay, and sometimes we lose patience with the boss man, but he's going to handle it on his schedule, bro. Trust me, he's got this under control. He's got this under control. May not seem like it, but keep in mind that is your petty human understanding, but he's watching always. And that includes you, okay? And me. So let's keep, before we get to Judgy McJudgerson and start throwing out and casting aspersions and whatnot. Remember to clean up your own backyard before you go knocking on your neighbor's door. Yes, it's always nice in that sense of Schadenfreude to see bad things happen to bad people. It's refreshing. But keep in mind, man, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. So always keep an eye on your own behavior. Always, man. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't hilarious. Ha ha! Check it out. Brother Wolf has shown up, man. Glad you made it, brother. It's been a minute. It has been a minute. And I appreciate your interaction online as well. And of course, the great and powerful Joshua Vargas. This is in the same week that the star Epstein witness commits suicide and R. Kelly admits to blowing his cousin while acid bath reunites in New Orleans. What a time to be alive. Yeah, brother. Yeah. Strange days indeed. Most peculiar mama. Whoa. Little John Lennon reference, kind of sidearm. Finally had a Sunday off. Well, I'm glad, man. And I'm glad that having a Sunday off, you decided to spend it with my toothless, fat, crippled ass, man. I'm honored. I'm definitely honored. Yeah. The star Epstein witness commits suicide, and Kanye admits to blowing his. Ye admits to blowing his cousin. Look, man, is there any I want to address that. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it was a thread. I was chopping it up with an old friend of mine who I just recently renewed contact with. We had been estranged for a little bit, but we made our peace, and we've been chatting, chopping it up a little bit. But he posted something to that effect, and I'm going to tell you something, man. From spending years and years and years in the Montrose, and from exploits and travails of my own, I can tell you a thing or two about being in the life when it comes to that community and the G's in the LGBT. Incest is disturbingly common, and if it's just gay men speaking amongst themselves inside the community, they will readily acknowledge and even joke about that. It's like an in joke. Okay. Now, just like with most family things, if anyone outside the community points that fact out, they'll immediately scream, that's bigotry, and you can't talk about that. Black people are the only people that can use the N word. Gay people are the only people who can talk about them blowing their cousins or whatever. But it's disturbingly common among gay men, incest. And in fact, it's the rule rather than the exception. Josh and any of my Houston people can testify to this. There is a bar in the Montrose called Cousins. Yeah, because that's a real thing. It, just about without exception, you talk to gay men, there will be some story in their past where it is an uncle or a stepdad or a cousin or a stepbrother or something, um, some family member had sexual contact with them. Maybe it's a cousin that it's consensual experimentation between two young guys or whatever, but more often than not, and again, almost without exception, it is a groomer slash predatory thing, and it's disturbingly common. That's why when Kanye came out, and I haven't even really done a deep dive on it. I haven't sought out an article to read or anything like that. But it was like Ye talking about incestuous relationship with his cousin, and I was just like, Okay, yeah, and in other news, the sky is blue, beer gets you drunk, you know, and lawyers can't be trusted. Here's Tom with the weather. It's it's a thing. I mean, it is a prevalent thing. Back when homosexuality was still treated by the psychiatric and psychological community as pathology, it was readily acknowledged and taken into account when they would work with counseling and things like that. Now it's one of those things where, you can't talk about it. They get a whole month where everybody sings their praises, and there's nothing bad about that. There are no drawbacks. It's not immoral. It's not mental illness, and it's not it's not exploitative. Predators in the gay community don't exist, yada yada yada. But yeah, it's a real thing. And this doesn't, and I should be abundantly clear on this, don't judge, you know. There's no need to hate these people. There's no need to despise these people. You can despise them item by item when they are actual predators, right? You can despise the ones who are enabling the predatory behavior by trying to gloss it over and act as if it doesn't exist. But the people who are in the life and they are struggling with that mental illness and they are struggling with that sin, you know what I mean? They're trying to find a way out of it. Is there a genetic component? Absolutely, man. These people are wrestling with some very real things, and you should want to reach out and help them. You should. But we have to acknowledge realities for what they are, and that is a thing in the gay community. Incest is disturbingly prevalent, and that, as we know, gets passed on generationally, right? You got diddled by a cousin or an uncle, and then you get a little bit older and you're diddling it's the whole founding ideology behind organizations like NAMBLA, right? North American Man Boy Love Association, which is a nice way of saying, we're predatory pedos and we make no apologies for it, but it's okay because my uncle diddled me, so it's only right that I diddle my nephew, because how else are we going to find our true sexuality? It's pathology to the nth degree, but you got to acknowledge it for what it is. Love the sinner, hate the sin, for lack of a better cliche. But yeah, we have to be willing to have the difficult discussions, no matter what it's on, whether it's gender, whether it's sexuality, whether it's race, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's whatever it is. We got to be willing to look the ugly stuff in the face, even if it's something that reflects on yourself. You got to be willing to acknowledge, it's like, yeah, man, we got some problems. We have got some problems. You know, um, you can be a white Christian nationalist, right? And take a look at it and go, yeah, the white community's got some problems. We had a lot of problems. We got problems with meth. We got problems with fentanyl. Inside the church, we got people who are trying to be halfway Christians. We have predatory behavior from clergy. We have predatory behavior from clergy, particularly with the Catholic Church. You know, to a level that's profoundly disturbing. We got to be able to look at that and have those difficult discussions. You got to acknowledge, again, love the sinner, hate the sin. Moving on. What do we got? Josh, these are the kind of things that make my dream to open a restaurant called Fuck McDonald's not seem so far. Brother, if there was ever a time to do it, now would be that time, because all bets are off. All right, so let's jump into one of the first bullet points. Actually, it wasn't a bullet point, but it's not even tangentially. It's damn near directly related to one of the bullet points about redundancy and kill chains. The white Vargas wins. Vargas wins. We have a problem with people that listen to Coldplay. Dude, as soon as I get done with the sermon, I'm going to log on to Stormfront and I'm going to post a thread that this is one of the most existential threats to white racial survival are people that listen to Coldplay. So, redundancy, kill chains, Virginia Giuffre. Uh, that was really regrettable on all fronts. And there are plenty of people to hold guilty, and I am going to call out I'm going to call out some folks right now that you wouldn't expect me to call out. Speaking of being able to have the difficult discussions, I am calling out Donald Trump. I am calling out Pam Bondi, and I'm calling out Kash Patel. You promised us. And I understand you want to make ironclad case. I understand that you have people inside the bureau who are deliberately hiding things and making it difficult. I understand that it's an uphill battle, but we were promised the Epstein files in their entirety. We were promised. And I have said point blank, if you diddle kids, you got to go. There are no exceptions. It could be someone that I hold dear, but if there is categorically undeniable evidence that Elon Musk diddled a kid, I'll put him out of his misery myself. Okay? That's everyone. There are no limits to that. We were promised the Epstein files in their entirety, right? We were promised that people were going to name names. We were promised that people were going to present these things and these people were going to be held to account. And instead, it's bad enough that they've let things trickle out. It's bad enough that Bondi boasts about having the list on her desk and the files on her desk, and we haven't had it handed over to us yet. I understand there's chain of command. I understand there are reasons for, you can't interfere with ongoing investigation. I understand that there are legal factors at play here, but we were promised the Epstein files in their entirety, and you guys have not delivered. Not only have you not delivered, but in the interim, Virginia Giuffre, right, the one who brought the case against Prince Andrew. So, as the people on this list go, that's pretty high up, don't you think, Sparky? Yeah. So, she brought the case, and she was suicided this week. It wasn't that long ago that there was an accident with her involving a bus. There have been any number of incidents where she is concerned, where there were near misses and everything. Like with most of these cases, everything is an accident, everything is a coincidence, everything is this, everything is that, everything is anything but what it actually is. And that is redundancy inside the kill chain. If you have someone who is that highly placed with regard to being a witness, it's like a guy who, it's like a guy who snitches on the mob, right? You can expect they're going to throw everything in the world at him, and they really don't care about it being out in the open like that. Everybody used to rest on the premise that there are certain people that you're not going to put a hit on because they got too much daylight on them, right? Epstein was one of those people, used to be thought of like that. It's like, they're of course they're not going to kill him. It's like that would just be too obvious. Everybody would know it was a hit, right? I was guilty of thinking that myself. Like when and you can go back and look at my Facebook history on this. When they first took him to prison, I joked about it. That was like, oh, careful, make sure he's on suicide watch. I just thought, man, no way. I was one of those people that thought this guy's got too much light on him, and if you kill him, it's just going to be blatantly obvious. And lo and behold, they waxed his ass. That one threw me because that wasn't a red pill. That was a red suppository. Okay, that one got shoved right up the ass of the collective grazer consciousness to where everybody had to kind of shake their head and go, "Wow, the tinfoil hat guys might. There might be something to these tinfoil hat guys. Like maybe maybe they could be right. They could be right here. And yeah, dead man switch. And I'm glad that you brought that up, George. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the importance of having a dead man switch. You guys may be unfamiliar with the terminology across the board about kill chains, about dead man switch. What a dead man switch is basically you have something hidden away, some final fu to where if you get killed, this is going to go public. I have a file and it has been hidden somewhere for safekeeping. And should I meet an untimely accidental demise or commit suicide, that this piece of information or this slew of evidence is going to be made public. And yeah, George, I really hope she did have a dead man switch. That is the deterrent. If they think, I mean, if they know, let alone suspect, that you have a dead man switch, that there's some incriminating thing that if they kill, if they kill you off, all of this stuff is going to go public and heads are going to roll, then the likelihood is they're not going to kill you. And that's what rattled me when they suicided Epstein, because this guy knew everything on everybody, right? It gets that way when you're a highly placed agent of Israeli intelligence, allegedly. Rant for another time. Virginia Giuffre. That case was allowed to proceed, but the judge, Kaplan, put a hell of a lot of pressure for everything to come to a settlement, to where nothing would have to be on paper, where Prince Andrew would have to be criminally liable for anything. And so it settled out of court. So you can't say, Prince Andrew likes diddling underage itty bitty titty. You can't say that because he was never convicted. It got settled, right? In the same way that you can't say Hillary Clinton is a murderous bitch. You can't say that. In the same sense that you can say that Trump is a convicted felon. That was the important. Like, why did they try so hard? He's not going to jail. It's not going to take him out of the presidential race. Why? Why is it so important? Because now they can say that. As meaningless as it is, they get to repeat it over and over again. Well, he's a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon. We can't say that Prince Andrew is a convicted pedo. We can't say that Hillary Clinton is a convicted murderer. They get to say that. And in the court of public opinion, that's a very important thing. In any case, Virginia Giuffre, a number of incidents, the recent bus accident, and in spite of the tweet in her own words, and somebody inevitably is going to probably, yeah, dude, but that's an old tweet, bro. That's like 2019. Right. Okay. Examine her tweets like more recently. It's not like anything had really shifted, but she made it a point. I'm making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and GP. If something happens to me for the sake of my family, do not let this go away. Help me to protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted. We can't even begin to contemplate the prevalence, the ubiquity, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. The prevalence, the ubiquity, the enormity of this community of violent pedophiles, even non-violent pedophiles. I don't even need to throw like violent on top of that. These pedos, these highly placed pedos, over and over and over and over again. All of these elites, the royal family, highly placed politicians, Hollywood celebrities. It is so prevalent, it makes you want to vomit blood. They will protect it. They will protect it. What was so disturbing about Epstein killing himself, suicide, was the fact that even the possibility that this guy had a dead man switch, for them to off Epstein meant that they were so confident, that it wouldn't matter if he had a dead man switch. Ponder that for a second. For them to go ahead and say, yeah, man, just clip him, right? Yeah, a long public trial would have exposed a whole lot of stuff, but even the possibility that this guy had a dead man switch, and knowing full well that he had contacts and involvement with Israeli intelligence or any intelligence network. That's not a possibility. It's a virtual certainty that this guy had a dead man switch. And he's the guy that facilitated all of it. Every single one of these scumbags, from entertainment, from academia, from politics, from royalty, all of these elites, he had the goods on everyone. And yet they were so confident that they went ahead and offed him anyway, knowing full well that he likely had a dead man switch, knowing full well that likely all of this would go public. So what does that say? That means to say that they have a level of confidence that no matter what information gets made publicly available, that the grazers will be easily swayed, that their propaganda network, remember, if you control the perception, you control the reality, control the stimulus, control the response. They had to be so confident that no matter what came out, they'd be able to go, yeah, well, these aren't the droids you're looking for, and the public could be distracted. The public could be talked out of it. And whatever doubts about their control of public perception, right? Whatever doubts they may have had about that, COVID pretty much alleviated that. You can make anyone believe anything at this point. Couch it in the right fear, give them the right boogeyman, they'll buy it. Redundancy and kill chains. This is the way that it works. Okay. You have a highly placed target like that. You have a highly placed principle that you need taken out of the equation, right? You don't just gamble on one possibility. If you got to get them very dead, very certain, you have a chain of possibilities. You have opportunity, right? Where, okay, you've got someone on them constantly and the opportunity presents itself for them to, whatever, a robbery gone wrong in broad daylight, a carjacking gone wrong, bang, put a bullet in their head, broad daylight, you move on about it. But you've got backup plans as well. Maybe you're slowly but surely putting poison into the water supply running into their house. Maybe you have several hitters that are looking for that opportunity. Maybe you have several different methods that you're going to go about, but always there is redundancy. The fact that there was this bus accident, right, so shortly before the suicide, and any number of incidents in the interim. Why is this important? Well, it's important for the case. It's important for the case as presented against Epstein himself and all the other highly placed people. But things are, and this is not Trump hero worship. But did you notice that from 2016 to 2020 there was a spike in busting pedo rings, right? Did you notice the uptick in the bust of pedophile human trafficking operations, child sex trafficking operations? Huge uptick in that, right? This is someone else who has the goods. Redundancy in the kill chain. You understand that Trump is getting up in years. You understand that he's carrying more body fat than he should be. In spite of the fact that all of his health checks keep coming back, healthy as a horse, that would be one acceptable way to clip him, an induced heart attack. Uh, Accident, a little bit more difficult now, but that was one angle that I thought they may have been working during the run up to the 2020 election, because all of the difficulties that you were having all of a sudden with commercial aircraft, what company was having the most oopsies? Boeing, right? Trump's jet, Boeing. Accident, oopsie, right? Oh, it was a plane crash. Well, Boeing's having a lot of QC problems, so it totally makes sense. It completely adds up. But when everything else fails, and this is why we've got to remain concerned, when everything else fails, you got to have your lone nut, right? You got to have your lone nut in Butler, Pennsylvania. You got to have your lone nut in Florida. Redundancy in the kill chain. This kid that they placed in Butler, Pennsylvania, screwed up. That was a layup of a rifle shot. The layup of a rifle shot. Even with irons, right? Even running iron sights. And even going for the headshot. The smarter move would have been to go center mass. If he would have dumped 6 rounds, how many did he get off 6? Somebody fact check me on that. If he would have gotten off 6 rounds and 3 of them would have been targeted center mass, Trump would be a dead man. Even wearing a hard shirt, which he doesn't like to. So he wasn't wearing chicken plates for damn sure. And if he was wearing a hard shirt, it may have been level 2. I doubt he even went 3 alpha because I don't want to wear this. It bogs me down. Let me get my shoes. Right? So had he gone for center mass, Trump would be a dead man now, because even wearing that hard shirt, 3 rifle rounds, the internal damage, it would have been too much for him. I could be wrong about that, but that's my supposition. Guy in Butler missed. You got another guy in Florida set up for a kill shot on the golf course. It wasn't Mar-a-Lago, it was a different golf course, but you got a guy staked out. How did he get there? How did he get the intel? Who was supplying him with Trump's schedule? How did the kid in Butler get there? And don't you think it's a little weird that nobody's asking any of these questions? How much do we really know about that kid in Pennsylvania? How much do we know? Now, I know a little bit more about the guy in Florida because, I do deep dives. But that guy was going back and forth. This was a guy who had prior convictions for automatic weapon possession, right? He had a police standoff involving an automatic weapon. And yet, this guy, a construction guy from the Carolinas, right? He's got money to go back and forth to Ukraine, trying to drum up arms and support for military units in Ukraine. And he just shows up on the golf course in Florida to clip Trump. The bottom line is this: nothing is a coincidence when it comes to these people. And there is nothing that they are unwilling to do. So, redundancy in the kill chain. Yeah, man, you picked it up after Butler and you thought, well, they tried and they missed. We knew they were going to try. Right, because they tried everything else to get him out of the race. Okay, you got no choice. You got to kill him, right? Boom. They tried. They missed. And everybody went, ooh, dodged a bullet there. Right? And then they tried again. They were that confident on the Epstein tip. They were that confident that they could do something naked like that in the light of day. And their propaganda machine would smooth it over because they control the public perception, that nobody would ask any questions. And people are asking questions, but then you got his acquisitions chick, Ghislaine Maxwell, right? You put her on trial, they find her guilty, but they have those long discussions with her in the penitentiary. You saw what we did to your old man, right? We can rub you right the hell out too. And of course, the thinking person goes, oh, dude, they couldn't kill her too. Nobody would believe that. It doesn't matter. You understand? It doesn't matter. Because people would look at it and go, yeah, that is undeniably an assassination. Wouldn't change anything. When it comes to Donald Trump, they are not done yet. You notice that his approval ratings have taken a big hit in the past couple of weeks. You notice that I won't say that they're prepping us for it, but they are somewhat facilitating it, leaning in that direction. There's really no polite way to put this. Bart, you're making too much out of this. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And this is where redundancy in the kill chain ties in to the other thing that I discussed in the opener about people who are justifying political violence. That is the shift in the narrative now with regard to the media's approach to all this. They are making it okay. It's bad enough they were trying to sell us Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler. That's selling it. But the push and the shift is almost like, well, if he's Hitler, I'm not saying that anyone should, but they're giving it tacit approval. And it's having the desired effect. Brother Turtle, glad that you're here, by the way. Look who decided to join us. How you doing, bro? Glad you made it. With Trump, even if they admit they did it, half the country would cheer anyway. And that's exactly where I was going, Dennis. That's exactly where I was going. And people say, oh man, no, it's not. Brother, let's just get a look here. Let me run it back to the graph. I got it here in the opener somewhere. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? Here we go. Boom. For people that lean left of center, and you got to think this is a public poll where people are on the phone and there's every possibility in the world that this could be a setup where they're trying to gauge people's attitude. And we're talking about assassinations, man. We're talking about murders. Do you feel me? So here we are talking about murder, and you have this percentage of people that lean politically left of center. You've got that percentage who are like, yeah, okay, no harm, no foul. With regard to Elon, with regard to Trump. For Elon Musk, almost half, 48.6%. But when it came to Trump, more than half, 55.2%. In an open poll. You guys tracking on this? Do you guys find that nearly as disturbing as I do? It's working. They are making it acceptable. And I think the fact of, keep in mind, as long as we're crafting narratives, if the left is trying to say we're not the violent ones, why would they go public with a poll like that? If they are trying to carry the narrative that it's Republicans that are violent and they are passive, and why would the mainstream media go public with that poll? They would try to suppress it because they don't want the optics of we are the bad guys who are advocating violence against our political opponents. You don't want that kind of heat, right? And yet they let it go. Why? You know why. It should be obvious to even the most casual observer. Why? Because they're making it okay. Basically, the premise is it's like, oh, wow, can you believe this? Just look at that. Better than half of the people left of center that they polled think that it's okay to shoot the president. My goodness, I'm outraged. Whoever would have thought? I mean, 55%. That means that better than half of our own team thinks it's okay. Joe, what do you think about that? Oh, well, I think it's a very disturbing thing, but yes, it clearly shows that of better than half of liberals think that it would be okay to kill the president. Sam, what do you think? Well, man, looking at it, just coming from the urban perspective and, downtrodden denizens of the demimond that is known as the ghetto, you have to understand from a black American's perspective, looks very sad. But it clearly does show that better than half of the people think it would be okay to kill the president. Sue? Well, as a white liberal woman, it disturbs me, but it clearly shows that better than half would think that it's okay. The message over and over again. It's okay. Your team believes it's okay. Don't worry about it. Violence against them is totally justified. That Elon guy, yeah, oh yeah, okay to kill him too. Vandalizing Tesla dealerships, why? Overwhelming. How many people? How many? Let me go back and look at the graph here. Look at that. Higher than anything. When it came down to just vandalism, right? Not violence, but vandalism, almost 60% felt that it was okay. Because after all, it's just property, right? It's just property. He's got billions of dollars. Why? It's more than acceptable. What better way to hit him than in the pocketbook? Those dastardly billionaires, and let's make him spend some of that money. This is the push. So, redundancies in the kill chain. They have operatives. There are still plenty of barbers out there right now waiting to give Trump that JFK haircut. The one where they part it back and to the left. Yeah, There are plenty of barbers out there that are still waiting to give him that JFK haircut. But if you are using the public, if you are pushing for what they've already shown they have not only the capability of, but the propensity for, that kind of violence, they become a redundancy in that kill chain. Do you understand? Lone nuts, as a general rule, yeah, they float out there, but they're not the ones that get it done. Oswald was not a lone nut. This kid in Butler was not a lone nut. The guy on the golf course in Florida was not a lone nut. But if you have all these barbers out there, and then you have these overwhelming numbers of people who have already demonstrated what they're capable of doing during the fentanyl Floyd riots, they'll burn down cities, they'll shoot cops, you know, killing another citizen, nothing to these people. They have demonstrated what they're capable of with regards to these violent acts during those mostly peaceful protests. So they become a redundancy in the kill chain. Do you see how this works? I mean, granted, you can't count on them, right? Because security measures are real. Even if you've got people on the inside who are short shucking security to leave that opening for one of those barbers, they're leaving it open for any one of these real, legit lone nuts as well. Do you understand? So these are people that you don't have to craft. You don't have to spend time training them. You don't have to spend time grooming them. You don't have to have mission assignments. You don't have to do MK Ultra Manchurian candidate stuff. You don't have to worry about it. You just put the political climate to where you've got literally thousands of people out there chomping at the bit to do something that they're being culturally reinforced that, hey, man, everybody says it's okay. Look at that. Almost 55%. That's better than half of your team thinks it'd be totally okay to smoke them. They become a redundancy in the kill chain. Would any of them make the move? Yeah. Would they have the logistics and the sense to get close enough to pull it off? Probably not. Would they be able to successfully deliver that kill shot? Probably not. But it might be a little more likely with somebody like Elon. It might be a little more likely with somebody like Trump because they genuinely love the people and they're out there pressing the flesh and shaking the hands and doing the grip and grins and all these meet and greets. So if your goal is to get somebody clipped, that's something that they didn't have with Virginia Giuffre, right? That's something that they don't have in a lot of these Epstein cases, is a central focal point that you can push hatred on or fear about to get the public to take care of your problem. In fact, quite the opposite. Somebody like Virginia Giuffre, who the hell is going to kill her because, damn it, she went public about Epstein, and I love Jeffrey Epstein. He's a great man and did some wonderful things for the world. He managed my stock portfolio, and I made tons of money. And for her to peddle these awful lies about him being a pedo, man, I felt compelled to kill her. That's not going to happen. But redundancies in the kill chain as regards Donald Trump, as regards Elon Musk, when you have this push being put on, the more mostly peaceful elements of the general public become a redundancy in the kill chain. And this is not by accident, people. This is not by accident. So you have to take that into account. This is where we are as a country. This is the level of desperation to which the other side has had to resort. So be aware of that going forward. And when you listen to the news, when you see more of these polls coming out, about how acceptable it is, about the number of people that feel like it'll be okay. Understand that what they are doing is pushing propaganda to facilitate the extremist elements. They are the ones who are constantly saying that Republicans and conservatives use coded speech and dog whistles, right? You know, he told the Proud Boys to stand by. Dude, he misspoke, right? First of all, but regardless, for all, old Saul Alinsky rule, always accuse the other side of the stuff that you're doing. They accuse us of speaking coded speech and using dog whistles to incite violence against our adversaries, blah, 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 blah. They're doing it, man. And it's a redundancy in the kill chain. Eyes open, people. Eyes open. Because keep in mind, these, and you don't have to agree with me here, but on Planet Bart, these people are nothing less than Luciferian. Did he really? Yes. These people and their intent are nothing less than Luciferian. And as Luciferian minions, you are working for the father of lies. They can lie with the best of them. This is the way they're going to sell it to us. Keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes on Christ. Keep your head in the game. Keep your knuckles ready for the dust up. All right, cool. So, redundancies in the kill chain. Let me go back and see what I might have missed here in the comments. Hey, look who made it out, Chief. Glad you're here, brother. Glad you're here. And, if you get a chance, you and Nell to go back and watch the replay. I miss you, brother. I'm going to be yeah, okay, I'm giving it away here. Before we get to the next bullet point, let me just go ahead and get that out of my system. I am going to be coming through Texas this week. I probably will not be coming that direction, so I'm probably going to miss you. But before we move on to the next bullet point, let me just tell you about the personal development that we're on here. I'm wrapping up here in Winnemucca, Nevada. It has been a fantastic experience being here. You guys know that I am of the thought that every time Boss Man wants to shape somebody, he sends them to the desert, right? Sometimes he lets them wander around in the desert for 40 years. Sometimes he sends the devil himself to tempt people, but he always sends them out to the desert. So I have done this little sojourn here in the desert, and my assignment here with Brahma has come to an end. However, because Brahma is a big company with long reach, they have another project in, you ready for this? And this is for all my people in the Tar Heel State, all the people that I went to high school with, Wayne, Larry, if you're around, any of my other Tar Heel brethren. I am headed to the Carolinas for the next few months. That is correct. I will be going to Kershaw, South Carolina. They are building a water treatment plant for a gold mine out there. So this is the second time working with Brahma that I go to a gig and I go, hey, man, yeah, this place is a gold mine. It's like, oh, dude, sounds like they're paying you. Like, no, literally, it's a gold mine. I worked for them in Round Mountain out here in Nevada last year. That was a wonderful experience. And we are going to the Carolinas. And that is going to be great because I'm going to be 2 hours away from my beloved daughter, Alex, and my brand new, well, not brand new, she's a little over a year now, but my granddaughter, my brand new granddaughter, semi brand new granddaughter, she's going to be just down the road. So I'm going to get to meet my grandchild and I'm going to get to see my daughter and I'm going to be a few hours away. So hopefully, hey, look at that. He is here. Ha ha. Yeah. So spread the word, man. Spread the word. I'm going to be down in Kershaw, South Carolina for at least a couple of months, possibly as many as 4 months. But they are building a water treatment plant at that gold mine, and they need a crane operator to set all the stuff for the pipe rack. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the next few months. So, yeah, that's the development on this end. I had to say goodbye to my church family here at Living Stones, Winnemucca this morning. It was sad, but thankfully I've gotten to have like a long goodbye with these people because I got Easter Sunday last weekend and I thought I was going to be gone earlier this week. I got kind of held over, but I got to go to men's Bible study on Friday and say goodbye to all of those folks. And then last night they had a celebration for Pastor Grant, who just graduated seminary school, and I was able to see a whole bunch of people there. So it's been wonderful. It's been really, really wonderful. And Pastor Grant dropped some fire in this morning's sermon. and we got to pray together before I left, and I will no doubt see these people again somewhere down the road. So that's what's going on Planet Bart, and now we can jump back into the bullet points and the material. What did what did I just cover? So we got um, so we covered redundancy, kill chains, and assisted suicide, rogue judges, and deep state ethnic cleansing. And I think that's going to dovetail right into the third one really, really well. And that is the Turner Diaries through the lens of modern America and Europe. So what is the supposed understanding that we all have when it comes to judges, that they are supposed to be impartial arbiters of the law? Isn't that right? Now we know that everyone has their biases one way or the other. There is no such thing as approaching something from absolute impartiality with regards to a legal matter. However, there's biases and then there's activism. We know now, and it couldn't have been more clearly demonstrated than the fact of what that orange fella has been able to accomplish in less than 100 days with regard to controlling the border situation. The solutions were always there. Now, I'm going to be speaking with regard to the United States, and I'm also going to be speaking with regard to Europe, okay? Because this is all connected. These people are bent on the destruction of the West. And when I say the West, I am talking about Western civilization, period, full stop. They want to bring an end to it. Everything about it is anathema to them. They find it loathsome. They find it disgusting. This is all in comparison to some imaginary utopia that's never existed, but they feel sure that it could if only they could dispose of those dastardly Western civilization ideas like sovereignty of the individual and, capitalist economies. And if you don't work, you don't eat. And, paved roads, indoor plumbing, that they're very much against all of this. It's a terrible, terrible thing, and they want to end it. Yes, that's why they're bringing in people that hate the West. It's far worse in Europe, but they are putting the push on here in the United States. What was it that Ronald Reagan told us? Yep, right. Thank you. Two religions which hate the West. We all know which two, don't we? One of them sees us as a checkbook, and the other wants every one of us horribly dead. Okay? So, yeah, everyone is too chicken shit to say it. Judaism and Islam, anathema to Western civilization. And a lot of people are going to bristle at Judaism, and I don't care. I don't care. Because you have to understand, Israel treats us like a checkbook and a client state. They don't want us immediately dead. They don't want Western civilization immediately undermined, because without us, they would cease to exist. Okay? But in any case, those are the people who are at the switch with regard to letting all these other cultures in. I said what I said, process it, assign whatever hatred you wish, whatever accusations of anti-Semitism you wish to lay on me. I'm here for it, okay? Because as I've said before, if speaking the truth makes me a racist, then I'm a racist. If speaking the truth makes me a misogynist, then I'm a misogynist. If speaking the truth makes me an anti-Semite, then so be it. I am going to continue to speak what I know to be factual and speak it loudly and without equivocation or apology And I don't care, guys, join right in because you know exactly what I'm going to drop here from the Quotable Bar, Volume 1. I will continue to speak the truth. If it short dicks every cannibal on the Congo and hair lips every hillbilly on Buck Creek, I am going to continue to tell it like it is. You're free to disagree. You're free to call me a bigot. You're free to call me an anti-Semite. But you will, by God, know where I stand on these things, and I will, by God, be able to articulate the case. In any instance, they boast about it publicly. We can replace them, reads the New York Times editorial. Look it up for yourself. Europe, our ancestral homeland, is besieged right now. The people have hit a tipping point and they're starting to revolt. You guys are not aware of this, but there were 10 demonstrations all over Europe this very week, in Ireland, in Germany, right? In Spain, in Portugal, where 10,000 or more people showed up in the streets to say, we've had enough. No more migrants, and the ones who are here, we want deported. You haven't heard a word about it. Why? Because the propaganda machine finds that very, very inconvenient to their narrative. Because the leaders want to see that ethnic replacement. I'm covering 2 bullet points in one here. Okay? The judiciary is the last resort that they have against Donald Trump. The majority of people want to see illegals deported. I broke that down in the beginning with sources, right? 66% of Americans support deporting immigrants who are in the country illegally. That doesn't say violent criminal immigrants. That says you're in the country illegally, you got to go. 66% of Americans support that. Okay? 2/3, people. And as that breaks down, it isn't just a bunch of racist, bigoted, white, Christian nationalist Republicans in the deep South that can't stand them brown people. We just want to throw them out. No, clearly and predictably, 86% of Republicans support. Now, this is shifted gears. Keep in mind, the question was, if they're in the country illegally, do you want them out? Okay, different question than this. Do you support mass deportations? Right? That was more specific. Specificity was a bigger specificity. It's my college word. I got like 3 of those. The specificity was more important with that question, because that isn't, we want them out if they're violent criminals. We want them out if they're murderers and rapists, and we want them out. Yeah, the first question was, if they're here illegally, do you want them out? 66%. Here we've gone not only to, do you want them out if they're here illegally, but supporting mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. That is to say, well, we caught this guy and, we got him on drunk driving or attempted rape or any of the other things that they're known for, or diddling kids or, whatever, drugs, fentanyl. And look, he's here illegally. Okay, well, go ahead and throw him in the ice fan and we'll get him out of the country. This is a question about mass deportations. This is, go find them, round them up, and get them the hell out of here. Scripps News IPSOS poll, predictably 86% of Republicans, 58% of independents. You understand that? That's a good chunk better than half of independent voters were asked, do you support rounding them up and getting them the hell out of here en masse? And they said yes. Only 25% of Democrats did. 25%. Now, that tracks, because the Democrat agenda has been to keep them here by any means necessary to keep them here. Why? Why? They can't vote. Well, theoretically currently know they can't vote legally now. There's more than enough evidence that they have facilitated that, possibly not to a scale where it would have made any measurable difference in the ballot count, but they have quite deliberately made it more accessible for illegals to get in and vote illegally. And they have done that by design. Whether or not they were successful with that, keeping them in place already benefits them. Why? Because when you take the census, and this was the thing, when Trump was in office the first time, he said, look, I want only U.S. citizens counted in the census. We should be able to ask, are you a U.S. citizen? If you're not a citizen, you shouldn't be counted in the census, right? And everybody went, racism, racism, racism. Oh, he's just getting lists of where they are so he can go round them up later. First of all, what's the problem with that? Second of all, if they are not citizens, they still count for purposes of representation. That is to say, the more people you have in a given district, the more electoral votes and the more seats in Congress that you have. Do you understand? The House of Representatives, right? The Senate, every state gets two, right? Why am I having to give basic civics? I know I don't need to give this basic civics lesson to all my guys that are here that have been down with me for a long time. This is just for the sake of people who might be along for the ride going, I'm going to watch everything this bigot has to say so I can tear his case apart. The House of Representatives, right? You are apportioned a number of House representatives depending on population of your state, right? The electoral college works the same way. The more people you have, the more electoral votes your state carries for the sake of the electoral college when it comes to the big presidential election. So, when you have literally millions of people, okay, maybe they can't vote. Some of them can and some of them do, but that's a discussion for another time. They reside in your district and they're counted on the census. And suddenly, these blue states that just love them some illegals, there's a reason why they love them so much. Because the more of them they can flood into the state, and taxpayers be damned, doesn't matter. Infrastructure be damned, doesn't matter. Murders, rapes, doesn't matter. Political power is the long game. And if there's one thing that the Democrats, left, across the board are very good at, it's playing the long game. They don't fight fair. They don't give a damn. They all hang together and they press for the long game. It's admirable in its own sick little way. But when you have millions of illegals living in that district, all of a sudden you've got more electoral votes. And in the last couple of, well, not the last, the last one was a barn burner because cackling Jezebel versus, anyway. The one before that was a squeaker, you know, 81 million. It was a squeaker. Sometimes these margins come down to less than a dozen, less than a half dozen electoral votes. And so those millions of illegals in your district that give you those extra couple of electoral votes might make the difference in a presidential election, even if they can't vote. It also might get you the one extra seat in the House of Representatives might be the difference between a bill passing or a bill not passing. And the irony of it is that bill could have something to do with getting them the hell out of the country. Do you understand why they fight so desperately? We can have the discussion another time, and we should, about what their true motivations are with regard to ethnic replacement, with regard to cultural upheaval and replacement. Okay, those are the real goals, but the political goals, there's no debate over. They want the people there because the more people you have, legal or not, the more power you have in the House of Representatives, the more electoral votes you have when it comes to the presidential election. That is why. If somebody asks you, well, why would they do that on purpose? That's what you tell them. Okay? Because you don't want to come off like a raving lunatic, and a lot of people, when they hear the ethnic replacement thing, immediately their eyes glaze over and they turn you out. But primarily, you tell them that because it is absolutely and irrefutably true. That's why they want them here. It's got nothing to do with goodwill and love for your fellow man, and the good Christian concept of welcoming people in, and all, get nothing to do with that. Nothing. Numbers, power. That's it. No conspiracy required. Okay. So, judges, and now it's coming out. They have never been impartial with regard to this stuff. And all of these left wing judges now are getting caught with their hands in the cookie jar. First of all, you find out what they're doing on their own time. They're working for organizations like Catholic Charities. Again, playing the word games. Oh, Catholic Charities. Well, I mean, that's a Catholic organization, and they're doing charitable things, and they're helping the community, and it's good Christian outreach. And no. Catholic Charities is an NGO that was heavily funded by USAID. You remember? Wasn't that long ago? Doge found all the malfeasance going on with USAID, and suddenly Catholic Charities got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Not only have they facilitated this massive influx of illegals, but they've done it on the taxpayer nickel. All of the madness behind dismantling USAID was because that's been their cash cow. That has been how they have used your money against us. They take from the taxpayer, they give it to USAID, and USAID disperses it for outreach, right? They give it to an organization like Catholic Charities. Well, why are you giving Catholic Charities, $400 million? Why to facilitate the arrival and assimilation of new immigrants into the United States? That kind of stuff, word games. It's got F all to do with any of that. They just want them in. Get them across. Dems give them the money. All the people who are executives and facilitators for Catholic Charities, they get to pocket their big, fat, overwhelming salaries. And all the stuff gets brought. Open the borders, bring them in, settle them. We don't care after that. We don't have to continue to support them. Their entire purpose is just to get them in the door. You find out a lot of these judges are working with NGOs, if not Catholic Charities in particular, NGOs like Catholic Charities. And right now, this is another reason why they're starting to panic. This is another reason why Judge Hannah Dugan did the things that she's doing, and all these other judges are getting outed. Because now that USAID got the rug yanked out from under it, suddenly these NGOs aren't working on your nickel anymore. Suddenly, these NGOs have to figure out a way to get some money in an honest way, and they've got no way to do it because what they're doing is reprehensible and largely illegal, if we're honest. Okay? So, start looking into these judges, the ones that are getting arrested. What is the popular narrative? What does the news have to say about it? Trump is arresting judges. We told you he was Hitler. He's arresting judges that disagree with him. That is not what is going on. That is absolutely not what is going on. Judge Hannah Dugan was arrested because she physically interfered with ICE agents arresting an illegal immigrant. For all the moral high ground that all the folks on the other side like to thump their chests about, let me lay it out for you. This Abrego Garcia case has really been a benchmark. Okay. But and I don't. Everybody's like, yeah, Trump just laid it out, man. Trump laid it out for him, and they took the bait. They felt he's playing 4D chess. I don't believe any of that. Okay, I believe that this set of circumstances presented itself, and everybody showed their true colors. This Abrego Garcia guy, who is now exactly where he belongs in a prison in El Salvador. Okay, everybody jumped in. Why? Because he was a Maryland dad. Maryland dad quietly living by himself, or no, Maryland dad quietly living with a family, minding his own business for 9 years, and then suddenly big bad boogeyman ICE just comes kicking the door in, scaring the kids, and yanking him out of his peaceful life to take him away to a terrible, terrible prison. This poor Maryland dad. and they buy it. Why? I understand why. And I can't even, you can't even hate them for it. Okay. Because most of these people that buy the narrative, we're not talking about the hardcore leftists that, we're not talking about that. The mainstream liberals who buy this narrative, okay, you have to understand. Some of them, most of them, almost all of them, okay, I'm going to say this, and you guys can say I'm slipping, you can say whatever you want, but it's fact. Some of them are some of the best people you'll ever meet in your life. These are people with good hearts. These are people with good souls. They genuinely believe that what they are doing is making a better world. They genuinely believe that they are alleviating the suffering. They genuinely believe that they are facilitating people having a better life. Man, I envy them that optimism. It's a beautiful sentiment. Unfortunately, the facts don't line up with that. Now, people who are truly intellectually honest can look at that once they realize that it's an error. And they can say, wow, okay, now that the facts have come out, I still advocate for due process for all of these people. This guy just happened to be a scumbag, but I still believe that all these people have the right to a fair and speedy trial, yada, yada, yada. Okay. I don't happen to believe any of that. Okay. If you're not a citizen, you don't have the rights of a citizen, period, full stop, end of statement. But they can still hold that opinion while admitting that they jumped on board with a scumbag here. The Abrego Garcia case, this Maryland dad, as it turns out. Well, nobody can say whether or not he was MS-13. Well, actually, 2 federal courts did say that he was a member of MS-13. Okay? People who are familiar with the case, people who were in charge of adjudicating that case said that yes, he's a member of MS-13. Even assuming he's not, he's here illegally, okay, gang affiliation aside, and it gets better, okay. The Maryland dad, it's coming out now that 2 of those 3 kids weren't even his. It's also come out that he was a wife beater. Hashtag believe all women, right? We've got to protect women from abusive men no matter what the cost, unless he's an illegal immigrant, apparently. Because, yeah, 2 separate restraining orders. I had heard that too, Dennis. I had heard that, right? I had heard that. Drop me a source on that, and I'm all ears. I don't want to spit that and not be able to say, here's the source where he came out and admitted it. Okay. But drop me a source on that, and I'm all about it. Do I believe it? Absolutely. But I can't spit that until I have it authoritatively. I can only spit, again, what I know to be the truth. What we know to be the truth is that 2 courts adjudicated that he was a member of MS-13 and that he did have an order for deportation. Due process, he got it. He got his freaking due process. In spite of the fact that he's got 2 restraining orders on him, right, for violent behavior against his ex, right? 2 separate courts said that he was a member of MS-13, and they did issue an order for his deportation. The Biden administration said, hold up, no. Why? Because we need him here. We need them here. We need the numbers. It doesn't matter how they got here. It doesn't matter what they're doing. We need the numbers to justify our seat in the Senate or our seat in the House. We need the numbers to justify the electoral votes. Doesn't matter. And eventually we need him here because he's either going to be voting illegal, or when we have the mass amnesty, that we got a whole slew of new Democratic voters, 9 million of them. If they can swing Texas blue, Republicans never win another election. At that point, we have no choice but the cartridge box. Here's the thing. So everybody jumped on board with Maryland dad, right? Total scumbag. He's exactly where he belongs. And he got his due process. 2 courts said he was a member of MS-13. There was an order for him to be deported, and the Biden administration said, hold up, and suspended the order for deportation. All Trump did was say, oh, this block, forget it. They say, get him out of here, get him out of here. He got his due process. Okay? End of statement, done. He got his due process. He's just rounding him up and sending him up to camps just like Adolf Hitler. Rah, 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 rah. Yeah, it's just like the Holocaust, right? Yeah, just like the Holocaust, because in the late 1930s, when Hitler was coming to power, there were millions of Jews sneaking across the border to get into Germany. Sorry, Sparky, bad analogy, not going to work for you. So, in any case, and as a former John, I'm glad you made it. Glad you made it. Speaking of, here's a former incarcerated inmate right here who knows a little thing about life behind bars, and also happens to be one of my oldest and dearest friends. Roman, you remember Johnny? Johnny, you remember Roman? Man, I'm glad you made it out, brother, and God bless you. Here we go. Even keeping him in jail keeps federal money going to the state facility. $300 per day per inmate. Do the math. Thank you. So there's money as well as political power on the line. These judges have facilitated all of this. The immigration courts, the fact that the administration had an app for people to get in, they did nothing to try to stop it. There was no vested interest in stopping it. If they wanted to stop it, they could have at any point. Yeah, really, where's your proof? The fact that Trump has totally shut it down in less than 100 days. The Remain in Mexico policy, working like a charm. Actual enforcement on the border, working like a charm. The fact that he is engaging in mass deportations, working like a charm. The fact that the word gets out to these scumbags, don't even make the trip. You have to understand they're very, very basic people, okay? When everything over it is, you make the trip, you're going to be admitted, they're never going to come up with a court date, you get the benefits, you get this, they're going to put you up in a 4-star hotel, everything's going to be great, they're going to give you an EBT card, you don't have to pay for food, you rape a white girl, they're going to dismiss the charges, you kick back across the border, it's never a big deal. That's the word. They know that it's open season and they flood. Suddenly there's a new sheriff in town and the word gets around that, dude, don't make the trip. Because first of all, it's a daunting trip, right? You got dozens of miles of desert. And people get out there, they die in the desert all the fripping time, right? It's a daunting journey to make. And then you find out that when you get here, they are actually going to chuck your ass right back over the fence. And by the way, they're building the fence and making it taller and all of the other things that go along with that. And you're not going to be admitted. If they catch you, they're going to ship your ass right back out. If you commit a crime, they're going to lock your ass up for a little bit and then ship your ass right back out. There aren't going to be any benefits for you, right? Department of the Interior just cut off all SNAP benefits. So there goes your EBT card, right? The 4-star accommodations, not going to happen anymore. Maybe in blue states, but as a general rule, nope. Oh, look at this. For jobs as a coyote, $900 per person. I'm not shocked. That's last year. Yeah, that's last year. Border to Houston, yeah. That's last year, son. That's last year. Go look him up right now. Let's see. Let's see what that fella is now. In any case, they know it's not going to work. So they're getting desperate. The judges are still doing what they do to facilitate it. What we have to be willing to accept here is something that those same, God love them, those same liberals who believe the best in their fellow man, that think that these judges are deciding things impartially, that maybe even believe that whole Trump is Hitler thing, and say these judges are taking a stand against tyranny, these people are trying to head off fascism. I understand that that's the way they feel, and I understand why they feel that way. Unfortunately, it's not factually accurate. These judges are bad people. Very bad people. They're not honestly motivated. The liberals that I just discussed, Their motivations are honest. These judges are not. They are not honestly motivated. They are working for the sake of political power at the very least. And some of them have even more nefarious intent. They want to see an ethnic and cultural replacement of white Europeans. They want to see it gone. And again, we're speaking on both sides of the pond. I can only speak to what's going on in the United States. But you can take one look at Europe and see what the end goal is, right? The people are pushing back. The people here in the United States are pushing back. We get to push back by the ballot box. We've still got that option available to us for now. And we sent them one hell of a message back in November. We've had frippin' enough. Get them gone. And so they start to implement that. Then they figured out a way. If you've got judges, you can lay some landmines and trip up what the president is trying to do. And so Boasberg, James Boasberg, and what do we know about him? You guys remember him from the opener. You can probably even visualize his face. This is the guy. They put him up. They should figure out a way to head him off. And so, outside of his own jurisdiction, he filed an injunction against the flight that was carrying Abrego Garcia, along with other rapists and murderers, and said, no, we're going to put a stay. You can't ship them out. And if you got planes in the air, you need to turn them around and bring them back. Hell of a flex. Somebody would look at that. An honestly motivated liberal, for instance, would look at that and go, wow, he's taking a hard stand against tyranny. He's the final check and balance. He's the final bulwark. He's the final thing standing in the way of wannabe Hitler. That's not the case at all. He's there as an agent of the deep state, as an agent of that power arm to stymie the will of the American people. The American people wanted this guy gone. The American people voted for these policies. The overwhelming majority favor deportation, and a good-sized majority favor mass deportation. I just showed you the figures. But not this guy. This is the same guy that randomly gets the Signalgate case assigned to him. This is the same guy that randomly was the guy that handled the case of this guy, Ray Epps, who instigated on January the 6th of all the people. They arrested like 1,600 people, 1,600 arrests in the J6 madness, right? But not this guy. Not this guy who was caught on camera saying we have to go into the Capitol and leading people into the Capitol and forcibly breaching barricades and all the other things that he did. They've got this guy on camera. You have other people that all they had was their damn fingerprints and 2 seconds of surveillance video. This guy, they've got on camera instigating time after time after time after time, and they don't even bother to look for him until public pressure got too great, and then they charged him with a misdemeanor so they could give him a year's probation. No harm, no foul, Mr. Epps. They gave grandmothers years in prison for being inside the Capitol building. This guy, no harm, no foul. Who handled that case? There you go. These are not bulwarks against fascism. They are implements for communism. Good Lord, but are you going off I said what I said. They are agents of the deep state. Therefore, they are agents of globalism. Therefore, they have globalist and I will say Luciferian ends. And I'm very, very sorry for all the honestly motivated liberals that believe that they are doing the right thing. In your heart of hearts, people, God love you. You're correct. Okay? But unfortunately, these people have serious nefarious intent. And everything you've been sold about, oh, these are just families looking for a better life. No, these are single military age men. This is a conversation to have on another day. But what you believe in your head does not line up with the actual facts of the boots on the ground. And these judges are actively involved in it. Boasberg, but then it gets more direct. This fella here, Judge Kano, right? Did I have, let me see, I'll pull him up. I'm on the wrong screen right now. Judge Joel Kano, this fella, he resigned earlier this week. Resigned and then got arrested. Resigned in an effort to keep himself from being arrested. Why? Because it got made public that the fella he had living in his guest house, who had been there for years, plural, was a known member of Tren de Aragua. Not known as in some he had some tangential ties, and man, the judge couldn't have known that. He was just a fellow that was living there. He was just a groundskeeper. This guy didn't know. This guy was treated like part of their family. There are videos where they got this guy in their freaking living room and they're passing a rifle around. This judge knew exactly who he was. This guy knew exactly what he was connected with. On the kid's phone, I say kid because he's younger than 50. On this guy's phone, they found multiple photographs of decapitated cartel victims. Now, whether that was friends of his from back home sending him a Christmas present, or whether he was actually present at the events when they took place, remains to be seen. Whether he downloaded those images off the internet, yeah, that's always a possibility, because right now there's some lefty out there going, well, you don't know him, maybe he just downloaded it, he's just another case of mistaken identity. I'm sorry, that's what they all sound like to me. This guy had known connections with Tren de Aragua. The judge was aware of that and allowed this guy to live in his guest house for years, plural. Let him live there, knowing what he was connected with. Now, here's where it's going to get tricky, and I already know what I'm going to be accused of, but I don't care. If it was a white judge who had a known member of the Confederate Hammerskins living in his guest house, how do you think the media would be treating this right now? They'd be treating it exactly like what it is. Somebody putting race and ethnicity above law and community safety. It's a simple act of racial solidarity, and I completely understand that. Independent of the legal factors, involved, I get it, Judge. I get it, Your Honor. I do. Por la raza, todo. Everybody, not la raza, nada. Yeah. Yeah. La raza, la mecha. Yeah. Done the homework on it. I get it, Judge. You're taking care of your own. Good on you for that. But for the sake of the American people, we can't have you in a judicial seat. And then it gets even better. Right over in Arizona, Katie Hobbs, right? The governor of Arizona, the one that won the recent election with all the shenanigans that put in place, outright stole. And I'm going to say it, man. I'm going to say it, and it's all going to come out. It's in the process of coming out now, right? She stole two elections, back to back. Hang on a second. Just punching some things up. See if I can find a real quick bullet point. Anyway, okay, right. It's going to take me too long to look it up. I'm not going to bother with it. Carrie Lake, I understand why she doesn't want to run for governor again. I get it. Or why she doesn't want to run for Senate. Why she doesn't want to participate in elections in Arizona, period. Because she keeps winning and having the election stolen from her. Katie Hobbs is a corruption machine. But it comes out that her top aide, now, again, it's the machine. You've got cartel money. You've got people inside the administration who were facilitating the cartel money flowing. It's corruption neck freaking deep. And her top aide, the governor's office in Arizona, just got arrested for child sex trafficking, working directly with the cartels. And guess what NGO got pulled into that? You got it, Catholic Charities. This is deeper than you guys can imagine right now. Okay? So I understand why you want the best in people and you want to believe the best in people. I understand that it's a lot to get your head around, that people who are that highly placed, people who have been entrusted with that level of public trust and accountability, have no accountability and have that kind of malicious intent. It's a tough thing to get your head around, but you had better, because there's a lot at stake and the clock is definitely ticking. And the icing on the cake, Hannah Dugan, Wisconsin judge arrested by the FBI. Even MSNBC could not defend her. What? Yeah, that's right. Yes, Johnny. Yeah, good call. Yeah. The guy living in the guest house with the pictures of decapitated bodies on his phone was banging the judge's daughter. Isn't that great? You're going to welcome a known banger into your house, hand over your daughter, por la raza todo, right? Por la raza todo. Okay, cool. I get it. I totally understand where you're coming from. But what you have to understand, Your Honor, is that I am part of La Raza Blanca, okay? And therefore, I'm not part of your little clique. And you have to understand that I don't want to see. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I'm glad you caught that. Well, okay. Uh, just under the radar. You are deliberately trying to undermine the interests of this nation and the Western civilization that gave birth to it. I can't stand for that. You are actively and systematically working against my people. And I can't stand for that. People, y'all can think whatever you want about this. You can say racist, you can say bigot, you can say whatever the hell you want. I don't care. I'm calling it like it is. Do you understand that we have legitimate concerns, self-defense, self-preservation, self-determination, and those interests are being deliberately undermined. The judge was exercising racial solidarity. I completely support that. You understand? On principle, I get it and I applaud him for it. Right on. Standing for your own, man. Cool. Keep it all together, por la raza. Cool. I get it. But you do have to understand that puts you in the enemy camp, Your Honor. And then we have people of our own. What was it David Lane said? Oh my God, is he getting ready to quote David Lane? Yes, I totally am getting ready to quote David Lane. David Lane could be considered one of the ideological fathers of modern day white nationalism, right? Right? Do you know that in the 88 precepts, he directly said, and this is for people who know nothing about that end of racial politics, right? Who would never have been exposed to that, don't have any interest in it whatsoever. But he says in the 88 precepts, it is not constructive to hate those of other races, nor is it constructive to hate those of mixed race and ethnicity. But one must hate, and I'm paraphrasing because I'm quoting from memory here, but one must hate with a pure and perfect hatred the members of one's own race that seek to undermine and destroy it from within. Wow, that's pretty heavy. You shouldn't hate people in other races, but you should hate those in your own race that are seeking to undermine it. Submitted for your approval, boys and girls, Judge Hannah Dugan. She was arrested this week by the FBI. Kash Patel's FBI, who couldn't give two flying six rolling donuts about her good intentions or her heart of gold and her work for Catholic Charities, because she was a high-ranking officer of Catholic Charities at one point. These are the kind of people you're dealing with, just like, again, and I'm laying it out for you because all of these bleeding hearts are going to be seriously bleeding because they're going to have knives in them. Do you understand? They want to advocate for Abrego Garcia, and it turns out he's a complete violent scumbag. They want to advocate for this illegal migrant who's living in the guest house of a state judge until it comes out that he's got pictures of cartel decapitation victims on his phone, and he's known tied to Trinidad and Agua, Venezuelan gang that is basically the equivalent of MS-13, violence, drugs, everything else. He's going to bat for that. And now you have Judge Hannah Duggan. Why was she arrested? Because she disagrees with Trump, and Trump is Hitler, and he's just arresting his opponent. No, that is not what happened. ICE showed up at the courthouse. They knew this guy was about to go on trial. They knew he was in line. They had a standing order for his deportation. They had a warrant for his arrest. They had all their papers in order. Oh, but she took a stand. She took a stand and bravely misled these officers and tried to facilitate an escape for this poor, marginalized immigrant who never did anything wrong, just minding his business, and now he's going to be separated from his family. That's the narrative they're presenting. Let me break this down for you. They were showing up to get him. What was he there for? The trial itself? Multiple violent felonies, including one instance where he beat his domestic partner, snatched her roommate by the hair, and repeatedly pounded her face into a countertop until it was a bloody pulp. That's what he was on trial for. And this brave judge facilitated his escape. Well, yeah, that's just anecdotal, but the anecdotal is over and over and over again. And every single time the media presents this narrative, that's the narrative that they go with. And emotionally, the Grazers buy it over and over and over again. They get on board for defending scumbags. What I find most baffling is for the women. I understand on the one hand that they are more grounded in their emotions and they do want to do the right thing. I understand that. But we're looking at the safety of all women being put at risk with this stuff. She deliberately misled the ICE agents and tried to sneak this guy out the back door so that he could escape from them. And they put her in cuffs. As well they should. Judges, as a general rule, some places they are. Judges, as a general rule, are appointed, not elected. So the power that is accorded to them isn't handed to them directly by the people. But as that third branch, the expectation is that they will support the will of the people. The will of the people, right now says, we've had enough. These people have got to go. And I don't care what moral high ground you imagine that you hold with your judicial position. You are the same people who have told us for the last 4 years, no one is above the law, no one is above the law, no one is above the law, until the law comes to visit you. And then suddenly there's exceptions to that rule. That rule, Your Honor, is still the rule. And that is the rule of law. And you are subject to it. What's good for the orange fella is good for the fat white lady. Your precious little political pawns no longer count. The American people don't care. If it were anything but your nefarious intent guiding your actions, you wouldn't care either. You would feel the risk to your own personal safety as a white woman. You would feel the risk to your own personal safety, and you would be acting accordingly. So God forgive you. God forgive you for your nefarious intent. God forgive you for your deception. God forgive you for what you have enabled. That goes for you. That goes for Judge Kano. That goes for Judge Boasberg. I say God forgive you because whether you are doing it consciously or not, you are enabling a Luciferian agenda. Taking religion out of the equation, you are enabling a sinister globalist agenda. That's the big picture. The small picture is you are enabling rapists, murderers, human traffickers, child sex traffickers, narcotics traffickers. You are enabling the unnecessary misery and death of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. So your moral high ground, even conceding it were true, means nothing. I will pray for you. I will pray that God forgives you. I will pray that the scales be pulled from your eyes. I will offer you my own personal forgiveness in the long run. But in the interest of this fight, I will go down screaming. You will pull the rug out from under this nation only after a fight the likes of which you can scarcely contemplate. We have been very patient for the longest time, but our patience is running thin. And now we have people in charge who are actually going to implement the will of the people. Your side has fought completely without principle for as long as one can remember. We are finally in the fight. And may God forgive me. But in this moment, principle is not a luxury that we can afford. Currently, we are still within constitutional bounds, and I pray from my heart of hearts that we are able to continue in that fashion. But should it cross the threshold, again, God forgive me, should it cross the threshold, I believe that even the founders would throw it to the wind to say that they would sooner place the survival of the nation that they bequeathed to us than some vague idea of a principle that the side that seeks its destruction does not abide. And I pray to you, God, that it will not come to that. But if it does, bet everything within you that we have the wherewithal within us to honor the sacrifice that our founders made and to preserve that which they bequeathed to us by any means at our disposal. What you are seeing now, if I may quote from the book of Mark, chapter 13, these are the birth pangs. And but their days be numbered, no flesh shall be spared. Chin down, knuckles up. We are ready to rock. You had better search your soul and find out deep down if you have the fortitude to continue with this in light of what it is inevitably going to cost you. Because there is nothing more dangerous on this planet than a man or a nation or a culture that feels like it has nothing else to lose and are fighting for their very survival. You are not ready for this whirlwind that you are about to unleash. Pray on it. And may God guide your actions going forward. Because he has a forgiveness that we no longer hold. I am the Reverend, and that is the gospel. I want to close with this, guys. This past week marked 2 years. 2 years. Very important date. From the epiphany that brought me back to the cross and brought me back to the faith. I was hoping that Brother Sonny would be here tonight. Brother Bill is here tonight. Brother Bill was there. Brother Bill was there. I will never forget that moment. It has been an enlightening walk. And this journey continues. And the Carpenter and the Boss Man continue to use the Spirit to reveal themselves to me. And every day, because I focus on it, I grow a little bit. I grow a little bit in this walk with the Lord. God has gifted me with great men. God has gifted me with the proper people to give me the proper message at the proper time. Mysterious ways, brother, I got your mysterious ways. Just the epiphany that brought me home was a level of mysterious ways that a whole lot of y'all couldn't even get your head around. But it happened. 9 of us there to share that moment. I was hoping Bone would be here tonight. But I never, ever grew weary of it. Even in the moments where I find myself scattered, where I find myself slipping, where I find myself tormented, psychologically, physically, whatever it is. Sometimes when I take a look at all of the things that have changed about me, and some of the ways that other people have just dropped out of my life, okay, cool, I get it. I get it. I get it, and I don't hold it against them. Because ultimately, that's God's will. I don't have to take out the trash. The trash is going to take itself out. I wish they would have stuck around a little longer so that I could at least have shared the moment with them. I wish that they would have stuck around, not because I miss their absence. If they want to continue in the darkness, I don't, it's cool, man. You got your thing. Everybody ain't built for this. I get it. But I wish you would have stuck around long enough for me to at least sit down with you over a cup of coffee and say, hey, man, this is what the Carpenter's done for me. But he continues to shape me. The church family that basically got dropped in my lap here in Winnemucca, Nevada. What is it? God wants to shape somebody, he sends them to the desert. Here I am in the desert again. He got me on this sojourn and he's shaping me. And he gave me a great church family. He's given me opportunities to evangelize by example. Stuff that I'm not even going to get into here because it's not about aggrandizing myself. These are things that God has given to me and said, hey, here's a chance. What are you going to do? Boom. I'm going to step up. I'm going to step up. I'm going to continue to sing his praises. I'm going to continue to thank him every single day that I'm walking around on this planet for bringing me home the way that he did at the time that he did. Every new day, every new revelation that shows me the point on the timeline where we are. Every new bit of cultural degeneracy that falls apart. Every stronghold of the enemy that I see collapse. Everything that is done in the darkness that is being brought to the light. I get to sit back and rejoice A lot of people out here that can't even make sense of the stuff that is going on because they are not looking at it through the proper lens. They are still looking at it through the lens of the world. They are still looking at it through the lens of their own pride. They are still looking at it through the lens of covering for their own sins. They're looking at it through the lens of their lack of repentance. They are looking at it through the lens of any of the seven deadlies that is that big demon that's crawling on their back. And some of them are just lost. Some of them are just lost. They don't have a lens to be looking through because they're too far gone, man. But it's okay. It's okay. You know why? Because the boss man loves them anyway. The boss man loved them so much that he sent the carpenter to die for their iniquities. That's right. Every single one of them. Even the people that you hear me ranting and raving against, even the people that I'm willing to go to the wall tearing down in the name of the fight that's here, in the name of the fight to come, even those people, you have to pray for them. We are admonished scripturally to pray for them. I hope that they come to the light. I have no desire to bloody my hands on these people. I have no active chomping at the bit sort of incentive to want to go out here with all the consequences that could present themselves. My own injury, my own death, my own loss of freedom, my own loss of everything I've worked so hard to attain. Why? Because none of that matters. None of that matters if I don't have the love of the boss man. If I'm not living the will of the carpenter, none of it matters. I have no desire to jump in and start smashing skulls. I got no desire to jump in and start cutting throats. I got no desire to jump in and start throwing hands. But I will not shirk it. I will not shy from it. Why? Because of that same thing. Everything that is at stake. Do you understand? Western civilization is God's highest expression on this planet. That is a hill that I'm willing to die on. And the innocent people who are being grievously harmed and wounded by people who are acting purely on emotion that is being tempered by the father of lies, guiding them in the wrong direction. They don't see the victims of their moral high ground. They don't see the people who are dying from fentanyl overdoses. They don't see these kids that are being brought out of child sex trafficking. No, this will not stand. You can think of me whatever you want. In the same way that whatever voices are guiding you compel you to behave and to enable and to feel the way that you do and support the things that you support, I got a voice too. I got a voice too that laid it down in a book, 66 books, in fact. And that's not counting the ones that the Council of Nicaea went, no, they don't make the cut. But I tell you what I got. I got the will of the boss man as laid out in those scriptures. I got the will of the boss man as laid out in the works of prophets like Isaiah that foretold the coming of the carpenter 700 years before the fact, down to the letter, down to the line item, down to the number of lashes they put across his back. And I got the carpenter who suffered and died, scourged, tortured, murdered, hung on a cross to buy redemption for something that could not have otherwise been redeemed. Are y'all tracking? I got somebody that loved me enough to pull me out of the darkness, and he did it for all of us. Do you understand? And I'm praying that y'all come to the light. I'm praying y'all come to the light. I'm praying y'all feel that conviction down in your soul the same way that I did in that moment of epiphany. And Bill, you were there. Bill, you were there. You saw the light in my eyes, drenched in tears. On my knees, you saw the light in my eyes. I pray y'all have such a moment. Actually, you know what? I'll go you one better. I pray it doesn't even come to something that intense for you. But if that's what it takes to shake you off the fence, thy will not mine be done, boss. But I pray for y'all. I do. I hope that y'all come to the light. I hope that y'all find that within yourselves. I hope that y'all have that moment where you realize the sacrifice that was made, not for me, not for you in particular, all of us, the love, the grace that was behind that. Maybe for you cowards that are hanging out in the back watching all this darkness unfold right in front of you and don't raise an eyebrow and don't lift a finger, right? Carpenter got a word for that. Because you were neither hot nor cold, I will spit thee from my mouth. Ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. Ain't no such thing as halfway Christians. All you milk toast fellas out there that just can't be compelled to feel anything, I hope that you have a moment that draws you to that. I hope that you have a moment where you realize that we don't have to let all of mankind suffer and die in the darkness if you are not willing to fight for the light. Do you understand? And I'm going to say this. And a lot of people are going to get upset. Why? Because sometimes the truth hurts. Here's the thing. What a lot of people are trying to declare as moral high ground, Sanctimony Sam, and all you fellas out there that are standing on that, the Virtue Signaling Brigade, all of this stuff. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Maybe what you're trying not to say is that every bit of this is rooted in cowardice. You were trying to comfort yourself with saying that you are doing the righteous and moral thing when in fact it is cowardice. When in fact you see every bit of the darkness that we do, every bit of the degeneracy, the evil, the degradation, the pain, the suffering, and the minions that cause it and the minions that seek to amplify it. You see it the same way we do, but you don't have the guts to stand up and say no more. You don't have the guts to stand up and take that stand in the first place. What you are floating out there, Sparky, and we all see it. Don't think we don't. It may comfort you at night, but what we all see is cowardice disguised as tolerance. I don't want to judge. I'm not the one to judge. You better find something. You better find something. You better find something worth dying for, or before too long, you are going to tolerate yourself right out of existence. You ain't going to have nothing worth living for. Do you understand? I'm talking to the U.S. as a nation. I'm talking to Europe as a continent and a culture. I am talking to all of the West, and we are having that moment. Oh, brother, look around the world. We are having that moment. Yes, sir. Lord God, thy will be done. A lot of people coming to the light. A lot of people feeling that spirit. We're seeing them. They're pouring into the streets, and they're not just standing for culture, and they're not just standing for nation. They're not just standing. They are standing for the anchor that held that civilization together for the last 2,000 years. I'm talking about Christianity and Catholicism. And you can miss me with that whole Judeo anything. You can miss me with that, okay? Christianity and Catholicism that held the West together, while the Judeo elements sought to undermine it until they figured out they could use it as a checkbook. That's a rant for another day. But in the meantime, between time, you were seeing people standing not just for country, not just for family, but standing for the Lord. Do you understand? People are just marching not with their own national flags, but more often or as often as not, they got a crucifix leading that parade. Do you feel me? Mother Europe is coming back. Mother Europe is coming back. There is a revival going on that is unstoppable, the likes of which the world has never seen. And for you black pill betties out there, our best days are behind us, and we're going to suffer and die, and we're going to go extinct as a culture. Woe is me, brother. Get up out of your chair Take a look around, get a deep breath, and realize what you are about to miss. You are so hell bent on the fact that we're going to collapse and we're going to be forgotten by history that you are missing the very moment that is going to ensure that we are not forgotten by history. You are missing the very moment that is going to ensure that we are not brought to our knees, that we are going to, if we go out, we're going to go out standing up. You are missing the very moment that is going to bring us back, that is going to reestablish God's will on this earth, that is going to cast that darkness into the pit of hell, that is going to stand in the face of that degeneracy and say no more, that is going to stand in the face of everything that seeks to crush the innocence of children and take away the cohesiveness of the family and the pride of a culture and the ethic of work that built everything that was aforementioned. You are going to miss the very moment that is going to establish what got us here in the first place. We may have slid, we may have dropped, but we can keep getting up. We may have fallen, but we will continue to stand. And as long as we draw breath, and as long as we draw breath as individuals, and as long as we draw breath as a culture, and as long as we can put it together for a nation, thy will, not mine, be done. We will stand. And and I read the book, I know how it ends, Sparky, but assuming I was somehow misled, if we go down, the people that seek to take us down from the inside or from the out will, by God, know that they have been here for a fight. And they will know that it was the strength of the Lord, God, in every swing and every blow. They will know. They will know what they faced in their final moment. And I will be proud to meet my maker under those circumstances and hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. Amen. I'm going to close with a prayer. Oh, feeling that fire tonight, y'all. Feeling that fire. Lord God, I am so thankful, so thankful for every opportunity that you place before me. And I'm thankful for every adversity that you have placed before me, even the ones that are self-inflicted. I thank you so much for keeping me alive in spite of myself, that you could drag me out of the darkness and then send me right back in to drag the rest of them out, kicking and screaming if necessary. Help me to find the spine. Help me to find the strength to get me through those moments. Help me to recognize the greatness of every single one of those blessings as they come. Help me to be that witness. Help me, Lord, to evangelize by example. Help me, Lord, to maintain that fearlessness, to call out evil when I see it, to call it out to its face, to stand up to it. Help me to have the honesty and the gift of oration to present it to my brothers and sisters in Christ and those outside the faith. Help me to recognize those moments where I can communicate that to them. And even if they're not willing to come home, Lord, even if they're not willing to come home, they are willing to stand. They're willing to look at the face of good and call it good. They are willing to look in the face of evil and call it evil and be ready to stand for the fight when it comes, because that fight is here, Lord. Help me to bring that level of recognition to all of my brothers and sisters. Help me to use this gift that you've given me, that I've spent selfishly and greedily for the better part of my life using to aggrandize myself. Help me to put it to work for the kingdom, Lord. Help me to put it to work for the kingdom, and above all, to evangelize by example, to be the kind of person that other people can look at and go, oh, cool, that's what it is to be a Christian. I can be down with that. But at all points, to present your will, your word, without equivocation or apology. As we are admonished 365 times in the scriptures, Lord, be not afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. For all the stuff that the world has to offer right now, it can seem like a very dark place, Lord, but we go forward without fear. We go forward without fear because we are walking in the light of your truth, and we know who's got our back. So thank you for that, Lord. Thank you for the gift of your Son. Thank you for the opportunity to be washed in the blood and redeemed, that debt paid in full that otherwise we couldn't have touched with a lifetime, 100 lifetimes worth of works. But it was given to us as a gift. I accept. For every challenge that comes my way in light of that, I accept. For all those great men and women out there, Lord, the ones who haven't come home yet, soften their hearts and stiffen their spines. Because I know they're out there. I know they're willing. Someone just hadn't had it. Someone just hadn't had the call put to them the right way, Lord. Help me to find the words. Help me to find the way to reach them. Because we need all hands on deck. And I love these men and women. I love every one of them. The same way that you did. Loving the world in spite of ourselves. Level of grace that I can't even contemplate, Lord, but I thank you for it. I come before you in counsel in the name of the risen Christ. My Lord, my Savior, my high tower, my deliverer, my hiding place, my strength. I come before you in Jesus' name in service to the kingdom of the triune God, Father, Son, and Spirit. I offer this prayer. Amen and amen. 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 I love y'all. I love y'all. Thank you for being here, man. Late but here. Hey, it worked out, Ryan. It worked out, Ryan, because I ran kind of long. You go back and watch the replay. I think you'll appreciate it, man. I think you'll appreciate it. Thank you all for being here, man. Thank every single one of y'all. If you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I have a long road trip that starts early tomorrow morning. I got to throw some totes in the back of my vehicle and get things ready to hit the road. So God bless y'all. I appreciate it. Listen, if y'all can, you want to throw us out, pass around that digital collection plate. You guys can see the ticker running at the bottom of the screen. I get it. If you want to kick down, that'd be beautiful. I really appreciate all of you that do. For those of you that can't, I get that too, man. I understand. Like I said, I'm working right now, so it's all good, man. It's all good. It's a labor of love, man. But if you can't do it, I get it. Times are tough right now, man. And I pray that it gets better for you. But here's what you can do. Here's what you can do for me. You guys can share it on your own Facebook feed, your own Twitter feed. Share it with a like mind or a kindred spirit. Say, hey, man, here's this guy, fat, toothless, crippled crane operator with some opinions. He gets on and rants and raves a couple hours every Sunday. Some Sundays he runs a little bit longer. But he's a like-minded kindred spirit. Maybe you get something out of it, man. Check out the program. You can do that. But here's what you can do. Not for me, but for yourselves, man. Not for me, but for yourselves. Mike, you still with us? What are we saying, man? Hashtag, baby, live the three. That's right. Hashtag, live the three. What do you mean you're talking about live the three? What are you talking about? I'm talking about the three prime directives, baby. You're on planet Mars. They are rules to live by. The signal and the noise. The signal versus the noise. That signal to noise ratio is all jacked up right now, man. And the way society's working, they'll try to bury you in it. They'll try to bury you in the noise. What is the noise? The noise is the distractions. The noise is the deceptions. The noise is all the stupid stuff that the father of lies and the adversary put in your way to forget about the signal. What is the signal? The signal is truth. The signal is relevance. The signal is the stuff that makes life worth it. The signal is the truth of walking in his word. So you got to be the one to get that signal. You got to be that signal that breaks through the noise. That's directive number one. Directive number two, light in the darkness. They'll try to bury you with the darkness too, man. Bury you with it. Make you think there's nothing left but the darkness, man. They'll try to dehumanize you, demoralize you, emasculate you with that darkness. You have got to be that light that punches through to the other side of that fog. Lets people know there's something going on besides the darkness. And that light that endures through that fog that never seems to end, to get that light through, that light of truth through to the other side. Which leads us to your third, final rule, the most important rule, the prime directive, the iron rule, talking about strength in a world full of weakness. And I'm not talking about just this kind of strength, that's important. And it can't just be here. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. Deep down, it's got to be here, fellas. Why? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Do you understand? Without strength, you're not going to have the punch to get that signal through the noise. Without strength, you're not going to have the tenacity to carry that light through a long-lasting darkness or the punch to get through a short-term darkness and get there. You got to have strength above all. And when you pray, when you hit your knees at night, man, pray for that strength, but also pray for clarity and discernment. Because no matter how strong you are, you be living the three. The father of lies is out there with the deception. You have got to have the clarity and the discernment to sort it out. Boss man's got you on that front. Strength, clarity, and discernment above all. So y'all take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Boss man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. Let the spirit move through your life. God bless y'all. Every single one of you, man. I love you. Thanks for coming out. God bless. See you next Sunday. Take care. I love y'all, man. Thank you.